the letter Sister Grace never sent. Sometimes the hardest battles are fought in silence, behind closed doors, with tears no one sees. Sister Grace was known in her church as a woman of faith. She sang in the choir, prayed with fire, and encouraged others to trust God. But in the quiet of her heart, she carried a pain so deep it nearly broke her. For 7 years, Grace and her husband Daniel had been married without a child. Their marriage was filled with love, but every month ended in disappointment. They attended countless church programs, went for medical checkups, and joined in fasting and prayers. Yet their home remained silent, no cry of a baby, no patter of little feet. Members of the church often admired Grace for her devotion. She was always the first to arrive for choir practice, her voice lifting others in worship. Yet when the music faded and she returned home, the silence pressed heavily on her. Even her closest friends didn't know how often she wept alone. One evening, after another negative pregnancy test, Grace sat quietly in the bedroom, staring at the result. Her hands trembled as tears rolled down her face. Daniel entered and tried to comfort her. "Grace," he said softly, "don't cry. God has not forgotten us. Remember Hannah, remember Sarah." But Grace shook her head, her voice breaking. "Daniel, how much longer must we wait? The Bible says children are a heritage of the Lord, but where is mine? I feel like maybe God has turned away from me." That night, long after Daniel had fallen asleep, Grace sat alone at a wooden table with a candle flickering beside her. She took out a pen and paper and began to write a letter. Not to her husband, not to her pastor, but to God. "Lord," she wrote, "I have prayed. I have served. I have waited. But maybe you don't care about me anymore. Maybe you give children to others and leave me empty. I don't know if I can keep trusting." When she finished, she folded the letter and placed it under her Bible. Her hand shook as she blew out the candle, the room sinking into darkness. But in the stillness of the night, as Grace drifted between sleep and wakefulness, something happened. A gentle voice stirred her heart, clearer than a dream, stronger than her despair. "Grace, do not give up. I am still God. I am still writing your story." She opened her eyes, tears streaming, her body trembling. With shaking hands, she reached for the letter she had written, tore it into pieces, and whispered, "Lord, forgive me. Even if my womb is empty, I will not let my faith be empty. I will wait. I will trust." From that night, something shifted. Her circumstances had not changed yet, but her heart did. She found new strength to sing, new faith to pray. Her smile returned, not because she had received her miracle, but because she trusted the one who gives miracles. Months later, after a Sunday service, Grace was walking out of church when a little girl from the children's department ran up to her. The girl had never spoken to her before, but she tugged at Grace's dress and said innocently, "Auntie Grace, God says he will give you a baby boy." Grace froze, kneeling down to meet the child's eyes. "What did you say?" she whispered. The little girl smiled. "Last night, I had a dream. Jesus told me to tell you." Grace's heart pounded. She had heard of God speaking through prophets and pastors, but never through a child. She walked home that day with tears in her eyes, her spirit burning with renewed hope. And truly, just like the story of Hannah, her miracle came. Months later, Grace realized she had missed her period. This time, when she held the test in her hand, it showed positive. The news spread through her home like wildfire. Daniel lifted her in his arms, tears streaming down his face. Together, they fell to their knees and gave thanks to God who had remembered them. 9 months later, Grace stood in the same church, her arms cradling a newborn baby boy. The congregation erupted in joy, tears flowing freely as she walked to the altar. The choir sang softly, and Daniel stood by her side, his face radiant with gratitude. Grace lifted her voice, her testimony breaking through sobs of joy. "Brethren, I almost gave up. One night, I even wrote a letter telling God I was finished. But God, in his mercy, wrote a better letter for me, the letter of life, hope, and joy. Today, I stand before you with my son. Truly, they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. The church wept with her, some kneeling, some clapping, others shouting praises. Her story became a beacon of faith. Couples struggling with childlessness found courage again. Men and women who had given up on God's promises found hope. Grace learned that night that God may seem silent, but He is never absent. His promises may seem delayed, but they are never denied. Beloved, maybe you too have written secret letters in your heart, letters of doubt, of despair, of giving up. But remember this, God is still writing your story. Don't let temporary silence make you write permanent conclusions. For weeping may endure for a night, but joy, yes, joy, comes in the morning.